It's only 3 p.m. on a Friday afternoon, but in order to get through this video, I think I need some liquid courage. Hi guys, it's Teresa. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be reviewing the marvelous gem of a book that is Serpent and Dove. Oh wait, did I say marvelous gem? I think I meant absolute shit show. That is Serpent and Dove. It is probably the worst book I've read in a long time. And, I recently read ACOTAR, so you know that is really, truly meaning something. This book was so abjectly terrible that I almost couldn't get through it. I tried to DNF it multiple times, but because I was reading it for a video, if you haven't seen it, I'll link it, I couldn't. So I ended up kind of skim reading the last 100 or so pages. And so today I thought I'd share my thoughts with you. So where should we start? Okay, this book I assume is set somewhere in the 1600s, and it follows a young witch called Lou who is fleeing from her own people. They're hunting her for some reason we don't know when the book starts. And we also follow their so-called chasseurs, who are witch hunters, and they are like religious zealots who are convinced that all witches are evil, and they like burn them at the stake, you know, the usual thing. The book starts with Lou getting in trouble, and through really contrived circumstances, she ends up being forced to marry Reed, who's a chasseur, and he doesn't know that she's a witch. So that's supposed to be the main contention of the book. She is forced to marry someone who's like her mortal enemy, who doesn't know who she is. Things happen. I thought the book's premise could be really interesting. I'm always a little hesitant of like arranged marriage or like forced marriage romance stories, because, as is the case in this book, the circumstances under which they are forced to marry are usually extremely contrived and ridiculous, because obviously the author is like starting off on that point to like, you know, this is what I'm on in my books, and I just have to make everything else fit for that to make sense in the book, rather than it just actually being like an organic plot point that happens. And honestly, I've never really read a book where it like full on worked, so didn't have high expectations on that front. But still, I thought whatever, this could be like a really fun fantasy romance. I haven't read one of those in a while. I'm due for another one, so just let's give it a go. And while I actually started off kind of enjoying the book because I thought it was fun and lighthearted and kind of cute, it quickly turned to pure, raging, fiery hatred. And here's why. First of all, let's talk about the world. There is absolutely no world building in this book. You're just told that they're like live in the city, that they're witches, and that they're chasseurs, and then you just have to deal with it. Oh, and also everything is in French, but not like actual good French, more like the author like literally Google translated everything that she wanted to be in French and then just put it in the book as is. I think especially when you're talking about a fantasy that includes magic, a big portion of the world building that you have to do is the magic system. And initially I thought the magic system was kind of cool and creative. It's basically, well, creative, maybe not so much, but it's basically a system based on balance. Basically, if as a white witch in this case, you want to do magic, then you have to give up something of yourself, kind of like you have to sacrifice something. For example, at the beginning of the book, Lou has to break her own fingers in order to break a lock. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, that's different, interesting. And then there's a second kind of witch. They're called blood witches, basically. And they have to, I think, just like cut themselves, bleed themselves, use their own blood to do magic. Now, as a concept, as a starting off point, this sounds great. But if that is everything, all the thought that you have put into your magic system for a whole series, I think this is supposed to be a trilogy, it's not enough. There is nothing else further explained than that. No idea why there's two kinds of witches, how they're related, what does their blood do, what does this other person, like how does magic even work? We don't know. Additionally to that, if you do magic, it causes a certain smell that just smells very specific like magic. So when you're trying to hide from this chasseur or like just trying to hide your identity, you have to be mindful of the smell that you cause, which again, I thought was a really interesting concept, but then the way that it's used throughout the story is very again, irrational, just based on convenience rather than actual like rules that the author has set, like hard and fast rules that cannot be broken. They basically don't exist in this story. So I thought the magic system and just this whole thing with the witches and the witch hunters, it had so much potential, but because it was never delved into any deeper than the absolute surface level, it really just left you wanting more and frankly confused when the author didn't stick to her own rules. For example, sometimes magic only smells the instant that it's cast, and other times the smell lingers as long as you keep up the spell. And that is really just determined by plot necessity. Like sometimes the main character wants to like hide that she's a witch so it doesn't smell continuously, and then other times because, you know, reasons, it smells continuously and we don't know what's the difference. There is no difference other than this needed to happen for the plot. So I guess that's reason enough to this author. But okay, we all know that in fantasy romance, the focus isn't so much supposed to be on the world or even on the story, and I can kind of overlook that as long as the characters that are there, that are having their romance, are solid and interesting and hopefully likable and something that like I can root for, right? Unfortunately, none of that is true. Our main character, Lou, I thought was at first really interesting because she was kind of very defiant, like standing up for herself and kind of laughing in the face of the witch hunters' danger and stuff like that, which I enjoyed in the beginning, but soon she just became a petulant little child who was extremely impulsive, who put her own ability to sound snarky and show just how much disdain she had for everything related to their religion and stuff like that, over actually trying to hide her identity and hide being a witch. She would stand in church and like openly mock the religion of the chasseurs. She would defy her husband openly. She would question him on like stuff in the Bible, which would all be legitimate if she wasn't actively trying to hide that she was so against them and that she was a witch. To me, that didn't add up at all. And frankly, I just ended up really, really hating Lou, especially since she also suffers from a really severe case of basically being a 21st century feminist woman who feels better about herself because of that. And this is really her only discerning characteristic that sets her apart from the other women of her time that are actually a real product of their time and not an anachronistic creation of an author who's too lazy to actually create a realistic character within her own setting that she chose. No one forced her to write a book set in the 1600s or sometime like the 1600s. So if you're gonna do it well. Don't just take modern day values, modern day behaviors, modern day thinking patterns and copy paste them to a character that does not live in the modern day. It is the laziest form of writing and it's just so cheap. It would be so much more difficult to actually try and create a strong female character within the confines of her time rather than a girl who is literally taken from the 21st century and spouts phrases like the ass crack of dawn and I'm a grown-ass woman. If that is not the most anachronistic speech I've ever heard, then I don't know what is. Like, people didn't talk like that in the 1600s. I'm not a linguist, and even I know that. Like, this isn't authentic. You're not even trying at this point anymore. And it's truly, truly, truly annoying. But honestly, the biggest crime that this book commits is, in my opinion, the biggest crime any book can commit, and that's being absolutely ridiculously nonsensical and contradicting its own premise. Oh, how I love that. For example, we spend the first half of the book being told over and over and over again how much the chasseurs are just these zealots, these religious extremists who have been basically brought up within this ideology that witches are bad, women should be obedient to men, like really, really a patriarchal way of thinking. They have been like taught and beaten this ideology into their heads for their entire lives. But then when the plot asks it of them, they just overthrow that belief system completely, and not in the sense of like, oh, this is character development, but in a matter of seconds and just completely switch sides. That is not realistic by any stretch of the imagination. And it's frankly jarring when I read about a character who has been extremely repressed when it comes to sexuality for like half the book, is shocked when it even gets close to the subject or anything relating to it is even mentioned, and then all of a sudden reveals that he has a, shall we say, kind of spicy romance novel just hidden under his bed that he then shares with Lou. And I'm supposed to be like, oh, that's really cute. Deep down, he actually isn't like so anti-sexuality and like he's actually romantic. But how? When? Where? Why did he all of a sudden just change his tune so drastically? And now I'm supposed to believe that like now he's totally fine with it? Really? Really? And this is the same with like all the characteristics that have been assigned to the chasseur, and I think it's just a structural, integral problem of this book because the author tried to basically cut corners in character development. She thought, allegedly, please don't sue me, that she could just start a book with a character as unlikable and asshole-ish as any of the chasseurs due to their ideology, basically make them the epitome of a patriarchal asshole, extremely sex negative, like repressed, basically just walking ideologies that had been brainwashed within an inch of their lives, and then go from that in a matter of, I don't know, literal pages to, oh, you know, he's actually a really loving and caring and kind love interest who does not believe that women are less than men, and all of a sudden is totally open to which is not actually being the literal devil. Sure, because that's how people's brains work. Definitely. I don't know if the alcohol is helping or making it worse. I can't tell. I think that the book was trying to get at them having these differences coming from two different lives and then overcoming them kind of as a compromise, like both sides having very extreme opinions and then coming together, finding that maybe there's some truth to both of their opinions. But that just failed completely because none of that ever happened. There was no time given to them actually discovering the other's belief systems, maybe sort of slowly questioning them. No, instead it just was basically Lou steamrolling over Reed's beliefs and then just mocking him and his religion, and then he just changed his mind like that. Great. All of that comes down to just like really bad writing where I feel like the author had like very specific things that she wanted to happen in the book and like fuck all the rest, basically. Like, I don't care. I'm gonna make this plot line suit what I have in mind rather than actually like write it so it makes any kind of sense. And so it just brings out any sort of like specific characteristics that the characters might have, because they just change personalities, as I said, to suit the plot left and right. I'm not even gonna touch the whole Big Titty Liddy fiasco because why this song was so important to the author, I truly cannot even fathom. That could have been a thing maybe once. You could like, oh, this is a song I wrote, I like it, here it is, I'll just share with you once. But just when somebody actually used it in the middle of like the climax scene to distract the antagonist, I was like, what planet are we on right now where this is a appropriate choice of distraction? This last point I want to touch on is spoilery. So, I mean, don't read the book, so just listen to the spoilers. Whatever. Everyone in this book is related. Like, everyone. Every main important character is related to another main important character. That's like the rule here. I don't understand why. I hate this kind of plot twist. It's so cheap. It's like, oh no, he was her father all along. Oh no, she was his mother all along. I'm like, are there like only 5 different people in this entire world that they all had to have like sex with one another? Because what? Why? I don't know if this was revealed in the book directly, but it definitely was hinted on that actually Reed's father is the king, right? Oh, well, I think that was revealed. This was the part where I skim read, so I don't have like all the details. So like Reed's father is Madame LaBelle and the king of the universe, no, of the kingdom, and then like Lou's mother is like the queen of the witches basically, and her father is the archbishop. And I'm like, oh my fucking god. This is just the cherry on top of a garbage sundae basically. And then literally the book ends with another oh my god, they're related, cliffhanger. Like, does this author not have any other ideas of like how to be intriguing or interesting, like plot twist type thing? Like there's so much more that you could do, that you could keep a mystery instead of just parentage or like relationships or relatedness. At the end of the day, this was a really bad book. It had little to no intrigue. I didn't care about the characters. I didn't even like the characters, let alone Lou, who is the worst person on the planet. I fucking hate her with a burning passion. She's the worst. The world was not at all developed. There's like nothing there that you could actually enjoy, and I'm so sad about it because I think that the premise and the potential that was there with the magic system could have done so much more. Like, you could have just taken the ideas themselves weren't great, but there just wasn't any time devoted to at all developing them. And then add to that the lack of consistency, which also comes from the fact that you didn't actually ever establish any specific concrete rules that apply to magic or really anything else in your world. Overall, it just leaves a really bad taste in your mouth, like this cheap wine does. And makes you sad because you see what could have been there, but it just isn't. So am I glad I read this book? Not particularly. I don't think I learned anything. I don't think I have any sort of long-lasting wisdom to impart now. The only thing I took away from this book is that you should not, whatever you do, read this book. And don't pick it up. Don't even look at it if you can. It's gonna somehow poison your mind like it did. I don't know, I'm getting crazy. The only thing I took away from this book is that you should not, under any circumstances, read it. Thank you for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm gonna finish my glass of wine now and then get back to doing actual work, which is gonna be really fun. I don't drink that much, so I'm really feeling this in my everywhere. But it was fun. Let me know if you want me to do some more drunk book reviews. I'm not gonna be like slobby drunk when I do these, because that would not be fun for any of us, and also not for my future employers. But I think a little wine sometimes helps. I tweeted about actually Serpent Dove saying that some books just require alcohol to get through, as do some rant reviews. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you joined me with your own adult premium beverage, if you get that reference, let me know in the comments. I love dropping like YouTuber references and then waiting for people to figure it out. It's great. Let me know what you had to drink, and if it was good. This wine is very cheap and you can definitely taste it, but that's okay. Leave a like, subscribe, watch the video where I read other people's most hated books of 2019. This was one of them. So if you want to see how all the other books went, check that one out. Come back very soon for another video, and until then, have a lovely week. Bye!